that comes to us. Oh, got it. Sorry, interrupted. I'm hoping that our new tardy notification will help assist in some of that. And communication is the other really big piece. There are so many great things that are happening at Justice that I don't think make it into the community for a variety of reasons. So just trying to streamline that process, focusing on over communicating versus under communicating, and just trying to build those structures across the board, because we also have some communication issues that we're working out in the school as well. So I know that that's a very simple answer to a lot of different pieces, but those would be the top two priorities. And I've been really pleased with the way that our students and staff have really responded to the push of getting everyone into class and to really make our learning meaningful within the classroom. And another part of just our general emphasis is really starting strong in the classroom to encourage students to get there in time. So like when we're doing our classroom walkthroughs or observations, we're really hoping that class is starting straight away and that we are engaging our students, not just talking at our students. And the list continues beyond that as well. There is definitely a lot. But those would be the big ones for right now. And then just trying to stay open to feedback as it comes through, and working as a team to ensure that we're doing everything with fidelity. Kim, do you want me to just call on the people with the hands? Okay, you're muted right now. So Stacy, go ahead.
Hey, Dr. Roland, it's Henry Carter.
Hey, how you doing?
Your summer meeting, I was invited by Mr. Welch. I've just noticed, like, throughout the day, they're doing construction in the middle area of the school. Is that to help improve, like, the middle of the hallways and how they're, like, really clustered? Are you planning to open up those doors possibly during transition periods?
Which spot are you talking about?
In the middle, like, where around the new building and where that garden is, and they connect to, like, the D hallway, like, those.
Got it. So that's the last part of the project that they are finalizing right now. That's going to be that outdoor classroom piece.
Okay.
And so then when they're done with that, they're done. They are not planning on doing any work around the crowding of the hallways. However, now that I've seen it for a week, we definitely need to do something to try to help, especially in the D and the E hallways, because that, at least to me, seems like the biggest choke points that we have in the school right now. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, that's what I was just wondering, like, because I have some classes like at the top of the hallway, and it's just hard for me. Like I don't know, I'm not gonna run to class, but I don't look stupid, but like even so, I'm still feeling like congested. I'm not feeling congested. I'm congested. I move an inch a second. So I was just wondering, and I just don't take up too much of your time, but
no, you're fine.
is there a solution that could be like maybe longer transition times, or just like opening up those doors so I can get from all that instead of doing a huge loop around?
Yeah, and I think that I actually am glad you brought it up. Transition time is something that we're paying attention to right now. When the halls are empty, it's not all that hard to get from the I hall up to the O hall. But are you finding, since it sounds like you have kind of that long stretch to get, are you finding that it's hard to make it on time, even if you're trying your best to get there?
Yes, I'm all like, it's also, there's only one way to get into the newer building. So if we open up like that back door, I feel like more people would flood in instead of going all the way across like the end of the D or the K hall.
And when you say the back door, do you mean to go outside and then walk around to get
Yeah,
to
like
the other doors?
where the D hall stairs is, if you go out and then where's the exit near the concessions, you could just walk straight across. That's what I assume what those building those sidewalks for, just to make it more convenient for people. I was just curious as to what they were doing.
Got it. I definitely think that's something that's worth considering. I don't totally dislike that idea, because you're right, it is super congested. I think my first thought would be to extend the transition time before we look at doing that, just because I worry about, as you know, people once they get outside going somewhere else. But that's a really good point, and thank you for sharing that. We are talking as a team. We actually have it on for Wednesday to discuss the transition time to see if we need to expand it to ensure that everyone has time to get there, because I don't want people getting tardies that are just trying to get to class, but it's taking too long.
Oh, hi, Miss Lanu. Also, hi.
Hi, Henry.
Hi. All right. Thank you for your time.
Oh, of course. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, because we do hear a lot about the sardines feeling in the hallways, all the hallways he mentioned, but also I.
Oh yeah, it's definitely the I, the E, and the D hallways for sure. And then upstairs, the K hall a little bit, but not quite as bad upstairs. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big guy and I'm having to go up against the wall as best as I can so kids can get past me.
That's good to hear. The extension of time is being considered.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Daniela?
Yeah, hi. Sorry, just trying to figure out how to turn on my camera. Anyway, while I'm trying to figure that out, thanks for organizing the meeting. And Principal Roland, I have more of a request. I know it can be very difficult at the beginning of the school year to get the kids to class on time and to just get everything organized. But I'd also like to.
Oh, you cut out. It muted you.
Oops, sorry.
No worries.
That the culture of respect that we're expecting from the kids also, of course, extends to the teachers. Last week, I heard a couple things from my boys after they came home that I just don't think reflect the culture or the values that we want and really shouldn't be accepted. So, for instance, with the new phone policy, one of the teachers who had kids in the class who had been able to access their phones in middle school called the kids illiterate. And I don't know why teachers are calling the kids names during class, but there's that. And then there was another example where my son knew that his teacher was related to somebody in the community that he knows, and just said, oh hey, I forget her name, Miss so and so, you're related to this person. And she admonished him for asking her personal questions, but then of course when all the kids sat down, proceeded to basically share personal information about her background and her family. So I just want the teachers to know that these kids are people that deserve respect, and it really does cut both ways.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. And I would ask, if you don't mind, if you could email me separately with a little bit more details on that, because I would like to follow up. My expectation for our teachers is we're giving students space and grace and flexibility, much like they would want from me, and much like I think students want from us as they're learning and have 7 different bosses. I spent a lot of time in my opening with our teachers talking about the importance of creating that culture of belonging so that students can reach that level of achievement, because you're not going to be able to do that if your teacher is being disrespectful to you in class, certainly in the first week. So if you wouldn't mind following up with me in an email, I will definitely look into that, because that's not acceptable. And I'm sorry that happened.
Thank you, Daniela. Anne Marie, I'm just going to ask you if you don't mind being able to keep an eye on the chat for me, because my computer is fritzing out.
Sure. Yeah, I'll let you know if anything pops in there.
I also have it open, so I'm trying to pay attention to it as well.
No worries. I want you to be able to just focus on everyone. So I can see I'm having technological issues. So I just want to cut it off at the pass before I have any more issues. Kelly Aylward.
Hey there.
Hi.
Okay, I think I got to set up. Hi, Principal. Nice to meet you. And good to see. Thanks, Kim and PTSA for hosting this town hall. Fantastic opportunity. So I'm a parent of a junior. Also have a graduate from Justice High School, class of 2023. So have sort of experienced this transition over the last few years. Have a question about parking. I have a junior who's very involved in activities and sports at the school, and spends long days on campus. I know parking was limited to seniors through a lottery this year. I don't really know, as a parent of a junior, we weren't really informed of any of that, so I don't really know the outcome. I don't know if there's any additional parking spots. I don't know if all the seniors were able to get parking that needed parking, and if there's any surplus. Wishful thinking probably on my part, but we just haven't had any updates or communication. We've sort of been sort of non-stakeholders in the parking situation because we don't have seniors, and in the past, of course, juniors and seniors did have access, and now I know the construction has had a big impact, but just feels like there's been a lack of communication on parking. I keep asking my son, hey, is there any chance that juniors might still get parking at this point in the process? Because in the past, again, it was sort of a rolling, all the seniors were given opportunities, then juniors, and I don't really know the mechanics of how it all played out in the past, but so would love an update if you have one.
Sure, absolutely. And that's helpful feedback for me because we communicated with our entire senior base about the parking plan. And then also in my opening message that I sent out, we did talk about parking and how it was only going to be for seniors only this year. We have 52 spaces available, which is a few less from last year because we are adding visitor parking back to the school because we didn't have any. So we are going to have some visitor spots right out front. There were 82 seniors that applied for parking. So we were not able to honor everyone. And we did do the lottery system. We notified everyone that afternoon. That was a Friday. I believe it was August 9th. We did the lottery and we emailed all the people that did get parking and the ones that did not. Those that did not, we still have their names entered. Not entered, but it's in like the little jar we were pulling out of. So it could still be randomized in the event that someone was not able to pay for their parking or change their mind or violated the student parking agreement. It is very clear to me that parking is one of the biggest issues in our community. And it's also one that I have a really hard time controlling outside of the scope of the parking that is in front of me. So I've talked with Kim and, want to help advocate as much as I possibly can to continue to try to make the parking situation better here, because I agree. I would love for all of our students to be able to park. Some of our schools that have bigger lots and land are able to do that. We are the smallest footprint of all the high schools in Fairfax County. And we definitely feel it in parking. Those are the hardest conversations that I've had to have with kids so far this year. And it's not pleasant to do that. I know there's some talk of potentially doing like a merit system and weighing like what would be more important for you to have a parking pass, which I don't think is a good thing for me to decide what's more important. And so the lottery was what we came up with that was the most fair that we could do. And I recognize that that's not a great answer. I know that. And it's hoping that we can continue to work through our voices and advocacy. And the reality is everyone that's on this call has more sway, more so than I do, when reaching out to like the Board of Supervisors and really making this a priority. And of course, I want to support that as much as I can. And I'm looking for opportunities to try to do so in consultation with the PTSA.
Thanks for the update. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
Follow-up question by S. Friedman. Are the students still allowed to park in the spaces on Peace Valley Lane?
So Peace Valley Lane, I'm assuming we're talking about the ones on the side of the building, not the ones that are numbered and have parking permits. Yes, they can. It's first come, first serve. It's been interesting to me. I tend to get in pretty early, and a lot of those same construction trucks I'm sure you all have seen have been there. And so we have been working with Fairfax County on that to see if that's something that we can do. But that's not a great answer to kids either. Hey, just make sure you get here early. I don't think that that's particularly fair, and I wish that there was something more that I could do. And I'm hopeful and hoping that we can continue to work to try to make this better. I know that that doesn't necessarily help our current seniors, and that's the hardest part about all of this. Frankly, it's devastating to hear some of the stories that we're hearing. It's really, really, really a challenge. So I would appreciate any support anyone in this call could provide in trying to make our situation a little bit better.
Just a point of clarification for those who don't know, the side of Peace Valley Lane that's in front of the school, the half that abuts the property of the school, there are 30 numbered spots there because that is the property of FCPS. The other side of the street on the park side does not belong to FCPS. The other side of Peace Valley Lane that runs along the side of the school, that's all VDOT. So the side that's in front of the houses is under residential parking permit use only. The side that runs alongside next to the school, next to the cafeteria side, again, that's VDOT, that's not FCPS, so we can't number those spots. It is something, as a member, I am a member of the Justice Community Working Group, which for those who don't know was created as a part of the approval process that the Board of Supervisors granted the FCPS in order to build the renovation. they had to create this committee to examine transportation, parking, the whole lot of it, facilities, things like that. And that is one of the things that we are looking into in terms of our reporting of options of what we could do, which is to take that side, maybe turn it over to FCPS and maybe be able to number those spots. But as of now, we just have the 30 in front of the school and 22, I guess that would make it inside the parking lot. I'm just going to keep going, and I'm just going to read all the comments that are related to parking that have come up in the chat. Okay. So iPad, I'm not sure who iPad is. So glad that the street was paved before school started. My car is appreciative, but do wonder why it took so long. Will parking back by the field open? Andrew asks if parking back by the field will open soon. They're at the field now and it was chained for the evening games. Jenna White says she was at the school at 12:45 today for an appointment pickup and was surprised how many of the numbered student spots were empty. Are those students who might have academy classes or other reasons to leave campus that early? Or what would be a takeaway? Why so many empty reserve spots? Okay. Oh, you're answering in the chat. Okay. That's okay. So Dr. Roland says that we only have a handful of spots out back now due to the new wing, that he's happy the asphalt got fixed as well. And it was a parent call that pushed them to do that. Also, somebody asks why the lottery for students can't be by semester, a time to give every senior a chance. And then someone asked if we can publish the emails of the board of supervisors or other people to reach out to advocate for more parking. The answer is yes to that, and you can keep an eye out again in all of our in the PTSA newsletter and on our social media for that. And we will publish the link to the FCPS site that exists for the Justice Community Working Group, where they publish the minutes of our meetings and the things that updates that happen in the meetings. A large survey went out in the spring. And so hopefully we get the results of that soon. And that those will be published, but there will be much more advocacy around this because it's a larger issue than just parking. That is for certain. It's not just about facility use in general and our relationship with the community around us and parity between our school and other schools. That there's a lot of issues. Sean, do you want me to keep reading, or do you have any additional comment? There's a question about building a sidewalk on the side of the schools where kids have to walk in the road, specifically from the stairs at the corner of Diamond and Peace Valley. Okay. And
I know you and I walked that, and it was quite interesting to see kind of the lack of sidewalk or crosswalks or those types of pieces. So again, I can absolutely advocate for that, as I want all of our students to be able to get to school safely. But I don't have the ability to build a sidewalk or improve the crosswalks, and the bureaucracy behind that is quite surprising. It's a lot.
So Anne asks if there's a sort of petition they could start about the parking, and if so, who should it be addressed? So I guess what we can do is, I feel like this has been the bane of many of our existence for the last 3 years, but maybe what we can do is we'll just, from a PTSA perspective, and Dr. Roland, you can speak from a school perspective, but from a PTSA perspective, what we could do is put the parking corner back into our newsletter maybe, and maybe add it to our website to sort of give people a place, like a recap basically of all the issues we've been dealing with, how we've been dealing them, why the working group exists, the work of the working group, and then gives them some things to look forward to in order to participate. I don't know if you want to speak more to that.
I know, Anne Marie, I just saw in your post that you wanted to jump in. If this is an appropriate time for you to jump in, go for it.
Yes, thank you. So like Kim, I serve on the working group, but I'm one of the co-chairs, so I have a little bit of inside information. We cannot have a back and forth here because there's too many of us on this call that are part of this group, and it's a government body, and we're open meeting rules and all that stuff. But I just wanted to say that we do have the results of the survey. We just got it from ORSI, which is the FCPS group that administer the survey. And so FCPS is working to contact the members of the working group and get a meeting scheduled. And those meetings will be open to the public. So like Kim said, we will make sure that it's advertised in our communications, and hopefully Dr. Roland, you'll be able to attend, or we can at least meet with you, my co-chair and myself, to give you an update since you weren't here for the previous workings of the group. I will just share, not as the co-chair, but just as a parent and community member, this has been an extremely frustrating process. If you want a window into government bureaucracy, you should attend our meetings, because we are basically part of the work of both the Board of Supervisors and the school board. They both are having us do this work. And let me tell you, like, trying to get cooperation from staff, not the school, just to be clear, I'm talking about FCPS and the county government, has been extremely tiring, and it is a challenge. But what we are hoping is, with the results of the survey, to have some data to make our final recommendations. And there are many ideas, which I won't go into, but hopefully we'll be able to, kind of settle on some recommendations. And then we will need all of you to call and email both the Board of Supervisors and the school board, because Dr. Roland and the staff at Justice, their hands are tied. Even something as simple as putting a sidewalk on that part of Peace Valley Lane is not under FCPS control because they don't own the property. The street, the curb is owned by VDOT, not even like the county government. It's very complicated. And I think what Kim said is right. We are going to communicate to you once we have our plan of action from the working group. And then we're going to rely on you as constituents to advocate, to actually make them do something, because we have no teeth. We have no power. We can't do anything but make recommendations. And I know this is being recorded, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I don't really care if they hear me say, it seems like our working group was just for show. And we want to make sure that that's not true, that we can actually solve some of these problems, even if those of us with children who are older may not get to see the results, because it's just not sustainable. And that's all I'll say. Thank you.
You did a great job summarizing that. Thank you for weighing in on that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for recapping. Awesome. I'm gonna close the discussion on parking and any related topics, because we will publish more information about that. And I want to give time for other comments and questions for the group. James Wilkins.
And James, if you have a parking question, you can ask it. You're grandfathered in because you've had your hand up for a while.
Appreciate that. I'm gonna start.
Yeah. So I'm Kim. We met briefly, and I was complaining about parking on your first day. So sorry about that.
It's all right.
So my daughter, who's a senior, first of all, I want to echo what Jenna said. I was there midday last week. Half of the parking spots in the parking lot were not filled. I didn't know what the process was for ensuring that those spots that the students got were paid for and being used. And like, I also don't know where my daughter is in the list, because if she's 81, I guess she's never going to get a spot anyway. Last year, when she was a junior, she came to school an hour early every day to be able to park. And she's a 3 season athlete. So she stays after school every day, which is a long day, obviously for her. Last week, she got her first parking ticket of the year for parking on the street across the street from the school. And so, yes, I get that some of these parking, that there aren't possibly any remedies. I just do want to really echo how incredibly frustrating this is. And I also know this is totally, in the grand scheme of things, not a huge deal. She has been waiting her whole life to get this parking spot. And she couldn't, she can't get it. She's like, yay, a senior, I can finally park here. And she can't. And I mean, I get it. It's not a huge deal. It's just disappointing to all of us. Go for it.
I wanted to just say something that happened today. So I parked on Patrick Henry, because came to school at like 7:40, because that's like the only place I can park at that time. And I like walked up all the way to the building. I had my cheer bag and my school bag. I put my cheer bag in the room. And by the end of cheer practice, at the very end of the day, like 6 o'clock, I'm trying to go home. I walk down all the way down to Patrick Henry with my stuff, and I go to get in my car, and I realize I left my keys and my school bag in the school. So I walk all the way back up to the school so I could get my bag, and then all the way back down so I could go home.
Sorry.
I just wanted to add, maybe this is more of a comment for the Mason District Supervisor than the school, but I'm not sure what public good is being served by being very stringent on the rules of parking around a school when kids are basically trying to get to school.
Yeah.
So.
Just trying to get her education. She can't get there.
Well, I appreciate all the work that you're putting in to get to school and to do all the pieces that you do to support our school. I'm sorry that happened today. I imagine that was not a pleasant walk back up. And as we've discussed through this call, I mean, I do feel your pain. I do. It is really frustrating for me to not be able to solve this problem for students right now. And I don't have a great answer for you outside of please use your voice to help us. Like it sounds like when the next time we have a parking meeting in Anne Marie, I will definitely be there. I think as many of you could come as possible would be really helpful to show that the impact that this does have on families and on students in real time.
Jenna White.
I have a parking comment, but it's not perhaps what you think. It reminded me too, I also got a parking ticket the last time I was at school last year, but it was in the parking lot. So luckily it was something the office was just able to rip up, but I was there as a volunteer. So it was a little bit frustrating to come out and see a parking ticket on my car. I was not parked in a numbered space. But my comment about parking is about money, because my understanding is, well, I guess it is a question. The money that the fee, the $50 from the parking permit, does that go into student activities? And if not, where does it go? Because I had previously heard from some other countywide PTA work that money does go into student activities or something similar that benefits the school. And at larger schools, they might have, 200 spaces and they're able to charge upwards of $200-300 a spot, which obviously generates huge revenue for them. Now, we can't do anything about that because we don't have extra spaces, but I think it's an advocacy issue that we could bring up to the county, that if in fact this is an example of ways in which we're penalized by having a smaller school, by having a school where you charge less due to the demographics for a parking permit.
We're charging the same as every school.
But if due to the constrictions that we have in the number of spaces, I would love to see somebody, and I have asked the county to do this before, but I haven't seen any follow-up. It just seems like an easy overlooked thing where other schools are able to just have some easy money coming into something like student athletics. And there could be other things that the county is doing to just help support us with some of our limitations. And then with that, since we're talking about money, has the Title I funding started coming into the school already, or is that something that has not yet started?
No, it has. It started with fiscal year 25. So July, just when we roll over, because the start of any school year is going to be July 1. I am going to talk a little bit more about Title I at my back to school night session on Wednesday. And there's also going to be some information out there. We'll have a table set up that you can go and learn a little bit more about it as well. But yes, excuse me, the best way to think of Title I is it's a supplement to a lot of the programming that we're already leveraging and how we can, continue to improve and advance upon that. And so, yes, I'm still learning about that process. I'm not going to lie to you. The finance side of being a principal is one thing that is really hard to prepare for until you're in the chair. So it's been a really helpful learning couple months for me. But no, the Title I money is available, and we are starting to leverage it along with our operating budget to help support our students.
So do you know if you'll be hiring like any specific positions using that money, or you don't know yet?
So there were positions. So the other piece about this is the budget was set before I started. So we're in the middle of a budget allocation or a budget adjustment process right now. And yes, we are hoping to leverage positions to help support our school, and some of those are already in place.
And just last question, are we fully staffed right now?
We are down a geosystems teacher, which we have a long-term sub for. We tried to find a chemistry teacher, and we could not. So we pivoted our students a lot. Way too many schedule changes this summer. Way too many. I hope I got them all out of the way for my entire career this summer, because it is not fun to do that to kids. We were hoping we would find more luck finding a geosystems teacher, which is earth science. We have not had much success. Science notoriously is the hardest to hire for, but we are continuing to work on it. And if anyone knows anyone, by all means, please feel free to send them my way. Or if anyone on this call has an interest in earth science and is credentialed, by all means, please reach out to me, because it would be great. We've gone to every job fair that's been available this summer. We've been posting to try to get people from across the board. We're just not having much luck, unfortunately.
I just want to go back one step quickly to the Title I. There will be, Dr. Alon has been working on a Title I survey that we will be in cooperation, the PTSA will be in cooperation on, in terms of a family engagement and community survey about Title I funds. So that will be forthcoming maybe in September, just to keep that in your back pocket. And of course, we are always advocating for transparency and, how the money is being spent. And I expect that that will be forthcoming as well, as part of that survey process, and as part of the information that will continue to trickle out over the coming weeks. I think everybody's doing their best, given that we're the first traditional high school in the county to be Title I certified. But I think we've started a very good cooperative effort with Dr. Alon about this. And I look forward to be able him and us being able to bring you some more details and opportunity to give feedback about Title I funding. Because family engagement is not just a huge piece anecdotally, but as a big requirement of receiving the funding.
Right. And we're thinking right now kind of having that in 3 buckets, which talking with the Title I office and kind of getting to know Justice a little bit better over the past 2 months. One of those would be student achievement. One of them would be family engagement. And then one of them would be school experience, just in general, what that experience is like for students to help them. And so right now we're crafting our questions to support those 3 buckets. And Kim, if I'm remembering correctly, I think we had aimed for sometime in mid-September to try to get that out. Just get it out while you still have the beginning of year momentum going in. So stay tuned. That'll be coming out, and that's something that we will likely blast in the PTSA News You Choose, My News You Choose activities, and our student services one.
And more information will come out. We did publish something about it last April. It's a little complicated, but just so everyone understands, the budget is set, but there are, as Dr. Alon said, there are ways you can adjust it as you go along. There's just a process for doing that. So people's feedback and what the evaluation process that the school will go through will tell them whether or not they need to make adjustments, and they'll be able to do that.
And to give the county a shout out, since we're getting trash rightful, I understand why, for parking. Have had a lot of great collaboration with the Title I office with FCPS to help support some of this implementation and rollout. So excited to continue to do that. And we are going to go, if you're able to attend my session Wednesday night, I'm going to talk in a little bit more depth about that. And we will have opportunities, as Kim said, throughout the entire year. Family engagement is a huge part of this.
Christina Kish.
Yeah, hello, good evening. Thanks to
Hi.
PTSA for hosting, and thank you, Dr. Roland, for your time as well. Two things. You mentioned needing science teachers, and maybe this is a simplistic question, but if we do know people that would potentially be interested, do we direct them to sort of the FCPS level, or is there like a specific justice?
Have them email me and I will take
Okay.
care of the rest.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't need this person going to another school that has a vacancy. If you've got someone,
Right.
you have them reach out to me.
Okay. And then, I definitely look forward to, thanks also for we have such a robust back to school schedule. I hope I can get to everything, and thanks for making the time to, delve into Title I. But just in terms of what you were saying about the third bucket and student experience, I don't know, and I'd be happy to learn at back to school if that would include any sort of funding that can support kids doing the extracurriculars. Just looking at it from sort of an activity booster club point of view, there's fees for band, for rowing, for other activities, right? And the boosters always try to fill that gap. We tell the kids, the teachers tell the kids, hey, if you can't pay this, just let us know. But that might not get transmitted to parents, or kids might feel bad about that, etc. And so I'm just wondering if, in terms of student experience, any of the Title I funding can be shifted or geared towards supporting kids for fees of activities that they might want to do. So if that's something we can talk about Wednesday, great. Otherwise, I welcome any information on that. Thanks.
Yeah, there are definitely mechanisms in place that can help support that. Actually, in my News You Choose today, I had a blurb in there about us being a CAP school, which means that we have free meals for all of our students. And as part of that, there's also the forms to apply for the free and reduced component. That would support student fees as well. In like our parking fees, for example, some of our students that are, on free and reduced, they are getting a reduced rate for that very reason. So that paperwork is incredibly important to fill out, because that's the only way that the school would get reimbursed by equal opportunity money, is for those forms to be filled out, which is why there is going to be a big push just in general every year. It's also a little confusing with us having the CEP status, which I cannot for the life of me remember what that stands for. But with all of our kids eating for free, which is amazing, sometimes those forms get lost in the weeds. So I'm going to try a big push just to make sure whoever does need those forms filled out will have them. And as far as just advocating in general for fees for co-curricular courses or extracurriculars, in my mind, those are all just as important as achievement within the classroom to help round out the full child. And whether it's Title I or operational, I'm always going to be looking for ways to help lower that burden, that economic burden for some of our families, and try to help as much as is possible. It's not lost on me that me and my admin team and our staff, we have to be advocates for our entire community to ensure that those opportunities are there.
Great. Thank you so much.
Point of clarification. But prior to it being Title I qualified, anybody who is on free and reduced lunch does either have a reduced amount or not have to pay for any fees. Is that right?
That is correct, as long as that form is filled out, which it is unfortunately a little cumbersome. So we'll have some people there at back to school night to try to help as well. And I've already talked with some of our support staff in the best ways that we can try to get that message out as much as possible, because a lot of times it's just families not necessarily knowing. And so we just need to make sure that we're providing those resources and following up to help support our families and our school.
I don't see any other hands raised. Does anybody have any other comments or questions that would like to raise their hand? Okay, week one down. Any experiences? Anything anybody else wants to share? While everybody's thinking,
We got 2 minutes.
Paula Vasquez, please. Thank you. Brown, sorry.
Yes, hello. Hi. Good evening. Yeah, my wife is Paola. My name is David. We have a sophomore that goes to Justice. And I just had a quick question, and I don't know if this is the right time to be asking this because obviously we have a brand new principal, and obviously we can't, assume that, he can fix everything in 1 week, right? But one of the things that I actually used to attend Justice before it was Justice. I attended Jeff Stewart, so my son is now going there. And back in those days, at least, I remember you could not be in the hallways. I remember you could not be walking out the premises for no reason. I mean, the times have changed. I understand that. But last year, several times I went into the building. I would see kids in the hallways, in literally right in the morning time or right at noon. And no one would say anything. I would see kids just walking around the neighborhood, because I live close. So I was wondering if that's something normal. Like, is that something that because I always tell my son, you can't leave the premises under no circumstance, or but friends leave and everybody, and so I was wondering if that's something that's gonna be the norm. And this is my second year, this is the second year for my son, so I don't know if this has been happening for a very long time, that is just part of the culture, but I was just wondering if that was going to change, or I don't know.
Well, I appreciate your question, and thank you for asking, and thank you for talking to your son about the proper protocol, because what you described is what you had when you were in high school is the way that it should be. The hallways are not the way that they have been in years prior, nor will they be with me at Justice and with my team at Justice. My team and I, along with all of our security, along with almost all of our non-instructional staff, which is like our instructional coaches who don't actually have a caseload themselves, we're out in the halls at every transition, and for the first several minutes after, really encouraging students to get there. It's not perfect right now, still taking about 5 minutes to get everybody in the classes, but if you come in 10 minutes after class starts, the hallways are clear, and that's as they should be. Now, there's always going to be a few kids in the halls, of course, but the way it's been described to me, that is no longer the case. And I have zero tolerance for that, because I don't know how you learn when you're not in class. So I can't speak to before I've been here, but now students need to be in class. And we're going to start our tardy accountability notification this coming Tuesday, which means that parents will get a text message every single time a student is unverified tardy to class. So that could be 4 times a day. I've been warning the same group of students the past couple of days that is coming soon. But we have made progress even since the first day of school last week to now. It is getting better. That is a bit of a shift for students. And I know our upperclassmen are struggling with it, I think, the most, just because there's now that expectation that you are in class. And as far as leaving school grounds without permission, you could be an academy student, absolutely. And that gives you permission to go to another site. If a parent calls you out, then go for it. You have parental permission, but no one should be leaving school grounds during the school day without a valid, legitimate, parent notified reason. If that is happening and they come back, they will be searched. There is no exception to that policy. I'm not looking to get people in trouble, but the reality is we need people in school and we need them to be safe. And while I wish we lived in a world where I could be a little bit freer in that regard, that's not the world that we live in right now. So that is my expectation. That is my team's expectation. And so far, we've been very consistent, and that consistency will last every period, every day for the entire school year, and continuing on while I'm at Justice.
We have a couple of questions about the cell phone policy. How will it change beyond what has been going on the last couple of weeks? And also, will people be able, students be allowed to access their phones during an emergency?
So we start officially this coming Tuesday. These first 2 weeks are kind of a soft entry. That is not my decision. That is Fairfax County's decision. They're doing that with all the pilot middle schools and pilot high schools. So we start in full this coming Tuesday, September 3rd. It's interesting feedback, and I must be going into different classes because I was so excited. I did classroom walkthroughs on Thursday with some of our coaches and went to 10 different classrooms through a period, and I saw 2 cell phones in total in 10 different classes, which is unheard of, whether it's at Falls Church, Glasgow, McLean, Marshall, any of the other schools I've been at. I've never seen it that low before. I walked into a classroom of 12 students, and it was an English class. All 12 students had a book in their hand and were reading. I couldn't believe it. I took a picture. It was incredible. And I'm really excited to see where we go with this. Of course, there will always be hiccups with any system, and we are going to try to be as what's the word I'm looking for, consistent as possible across the board, because if we're not, then that's going to sabotage these efforts. So I'm sorry to hear that it's not been the best situation in some of our classes, but our teachers overall are very committed to this, which I'm really grateful for. And I do think that there will be a big benefit to helping our students. As far as emergencies, I don't know, without getting into the specifics of what you might be talking about. In a lockdown, I'm not sure we want our students with phones. I'll be perfectly honest with you, based off of previous experiences and things that have happened at other schools. That tends to cause more panic. I can understand you all hearing that from the parental side, like, wow, but you don't really want your student on the phone when they need to be quiet in a classroom. And as far as fire alarms, we've notified our teachers of our first drill, and it's later this week, so we won't have started the phone policy yet. And then we are going to do another one of our state mandated drills in a couple weeks. And in that one, we will practice having students grab their phones from the pouches to take them out with them. My guess, based off of my experience, is that having students take their phones outside before a fire drill or during a fire drill isn't really going to add a ton of time, because it should lead to a little bit more staggering out into the hallways, which should keep them a little bit clearer. But that's why we're going to practice. If you have a specific emergency you want to connect with or something like that, feel free to email me if it's not good for this entire chat. And of course, we do have phones in our main office. If there is something that you need from your student, you are welcome to call us. I am going to ask parents to do their very best not to disturb students during the school day as best as they can. I recognize that it is a different life now than it was when we were younger. And there's not a drop of research out there that supports having students have their phones makes it better for them to learn. So we're going to give it a try. There will be things, I think the high school principals and I that we've been talking, we recognize there may be things that we're not thinking about right now that come out. And so want to make sure that we're keeping the pulse with the PTSA, with our students, with the staff, to make sure that we're thinking of these pieces and messaging in real time if necessary.
Dr. Erlon, can you remind us which date it officially begins? Is it next week or the week after?
Tuesday, September 3rd, next Tuesday, after Labor Day.
The official policy begins. And so will you be republishing the policy? And I guess we could as well, when we republish your links every week, your newsletter links every week, we republish.
Yeah, so I've had it running in the News You Choose the past couple weeks. I am going to send that same message, e-notify again to our entire community on Thursday before the long weekend, just as a reminder. I've already started going on the announcements before the first bell rings, just at 8:05 to remind students that their phones should be off and away or silenced, and that they're taking their smartwatches off and putting them on airplane mode, taking AirPods out. And then we're also going to do that at the very beginning of each period once it starts, just to help students build into that expectation and that experience. So we have all of our pouches. I see someone in here asking about looking at something different in the future. Yes, I definitely would like to find something that's a little bit more portable in the event of an unannounced drill, for example, so that we're not either having to A, carry out the pouches, or B, have students take the time to get them beforehand. So right now there's a lot of research that's happening amongst the high school principals trying to find something that might work a little different. But honestly, it's kind of like the market hasn't caught up with it yet, which is interesting. And some of the products that are out there wouldn't necessarily be feasible for us because, you know, I have an iPhone Max, so it's one of the larger sizes, and it will fit just barely in some of the other things that we looked at. But most of our students have the pop-up things on their case or something bigger, and they won't fit. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes in the next couple of years, especially with this push, not only in Virginia, but across the country to really go with the phone free education. I'm just looking in the chat right now to see some of these other questions that came through. Can you elaborate how the new cell phone policy will be enforced for teachers? One teacher has already told her class she doesn't plan on enforcing. If you can send me an email with who that teacher is, I'll have a conversation with them. I like to call this teacher on teacher crime. And it is really important for us to make sure that we are all practicing with this with fidelity. That is the expectation. That is the agreement that we have all made as part of this. So feel free to reach out to me via email if that is the case. And we will certainly be following up with teachers where that is problematic. It does apply to smartwatches, though we're not confiscating anyone's smartwatch. I don't want to go down a road of confiscating smartwatches or AirPods. Those are much easier to lose in my mind. So we're going to be asking students to put their watch on airplane mode and silenced, and I'm not having teachers check their wrist to make sure that they are following through. So if for some reason something were to go off for their review refusal, we would follow the SRNR, the Students' Rights and Responsibilities, and just follow progressive discipline in that regard if that were the case. This parent also loves the new cell phone policy. My 10th graders whining about not having access and advisory. Yes, I think advisory will be one of the harder times. But we are also introducing Blue Day Fridays this year, which are going to be every Blue Day Friday that we have. The first one being Friday, September 13th. Students are going to have a little bit more opportunity to go to clubs, different activities. We'll set up like different like sporting events out on the fields and such for kids to do to just have fun. And on those times, they will certainly have access to their phones on Blue Day Fridays. They still have the transitions and they still have lunch as well. And based off of feedback from some of my colleagues that have done this unofficially for the past couple of years, and I've also talked to some of the principals out here in Loudon where I live just about this process because they're a little ahead of us. And there's always a bit of a learning curve. There's always some growing pains, but they've been really pleased with what they've seen.
Do we have any more questions or comments before we let Dr. Roland go for his 8:30 cutoff, which we're already 2 minutes past?
I did text. I can stay on a few extra minutes, so I texted my next thing.
Will somebody ask a question about lunch? Will they have their phones at lunch?
Yes, they will during lunch and during transition. I am not battling that, even though I think VDOE might be heading that direction. If you look at some of the working group that the Virginia Department of Ed has done around it, their recommendation is no phone at all throughout the entire day. And they're going to need to have slightly better systems in place before I tackle that, because where I've always been with this, and my opinion has really changed on this over this summer. I read a book called The Anxious Generation. I'm sure some of you on here have read that or heard about it, and it really changed my approach to this. I always used to think we need to try to find a balance for students so that they can learn to deal with this in the real world. And they don't necessarily have the brain development to be able to do that just yet, especially with so many of these companies, you know, vying for their eyes nonstop. It makes it a big challenge. So I would strongly recommend to you, if you haven't already, to read The Anxious Generation. It kind of changed my entire philosophy when it came to phones.
Okay. I don't want to cut anyone off who might have a comment or a question. While I'm waiting to see if anybody else raises their hand, I will tell you that the PTSA looks forward to, at some point in the near future, distributing a digital version of a comment box so that we can help collect a couple of pieces of information. One being, we'd love to recognize staff members when your student has mentioned something positive about them, or you have experienced something positive about a staff member, so we can recognize them in our upcoming meetings. Whether or not that's attached to some kind of gift card or something like that remains to be seen budget wise, but we would at a minimum like to recognize them in our meetings and in our newsletters and highlight them. I know I do have those experiences where I think to myself, oh, I'm so thankful that they went out of their way to do this. Oh, they really do their job so well. Oh, or I'm just so appreciative of them. And so just to encourage us to share those moments with us so that we can recognize those staff members. And then also to collect comments, questions, and feedback that might be helpful to pass on to the administration, to bring things to their attention that they may or may not be aware of, so that these things can be addressed. So twofold comments, kind of keeping an eye on the positive culture in our school and the things that about our community and our culture that might need some additional attention.
We appreciate any shout outs you can provide. I feel like I've just fallen into such an amazing situation. I love our staff. I love my team. There are some really great things that are happening. I'm also going to try to be finding opportunities to highlight some of the great things that are happening in justice with our community on a more frequent basis. But I'm really excited for this year. I dropped my email into the chat. You all are always welcome to reach out to me directly. If you don't hear back from me within a day, never feel bad to re-email me. I'm still getting used to the amount of emails that I'm getting right now. So I always like to give that caveat, but definitely want to hear from you all. And most importantly, I want to hear from our students. I met with a student earlier this week, last week, and we are continuing with the Principal Student Advisory Council that was started, I believe, last year. And I'm looking to expand that into a different type of program that I've done in the past at another school where we really tried to incorporate student voice. And it's around solutions-oriented voice, where if you have a concern, also want to empower you to, problem solve, and we can work together to try to solve it for the betterment of our entire school and community. It's, never perfect overnight. It is going to take some time, of course, but I'm really, really, really pleased with where we're at. Our kids are amazing. I'm so excited. I've had a chance to get to meet them. And I'm just looking forward to a great year, but don't ever hesitate to reach out if you all ever have any questions or concerns, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can.
Thank you, Anne Marie, for posting the link to join the PTSA. It is the most basic way that you can support our efforts, our advocacy efforts, and our programming efforts. And I definitely want to draw your attention to, there's more information in our newsletter and on social media, but our Wolf Shack, our school resource and food pantry, is getting ready to open on September 11th. And we are absolutely in need of your in-kind donations or monetary donations. You can go to our website, or as I mentioned, all of our social media platforms to find out more ways to donate and or volunteer. We definitely need more volunteers, and we welcome you to join us in that endeavor. I believe that's all we have for tonight, folks. Please do email Dr. Roland or email us with anything that you need, info@justicehsptsa.org. And that's it. Have a great night.
I hope to meet a lot of you in person at back to school night on Wednesday. So we're looking forward. Sounds like it's gonna be like 100 degrees. That part, not so exciting, but the rest of it should be great. So very excited to meet some of you in person. Excited for you all to tour our new wing. There are a few punch list items that they have not finished yet, but you can see for yourself. They did an amazing job on our new wing. And we can one up Falls Church yet again, because the wing at Falls Church, having just been there, is not nearly as nice as the wing we just got. So we're already winning.
And I forgot, they will kill me if I forget this. We are collecting donations at back to school night. We will have a collection bin for all of for anything you want to give to the Wolf Shack. And of course, we will have our donation QR codes available as well, but there will be a collection bin at back to school night. I think that's good. We'll keep it at that. 8:38, not bad.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great school year.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for your time. Have a wonderful evening. And PTSA, thank you all so much for organizing. Really appreciate this.